this meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Looks like there's 3 additions to the agenda. Community festival license for the Melrose Area Arts Council. There's another community festival license for the Melrose Area Chamber of Commerce. And there's a gambling resolution for the Melrose Area Chamber of Commerce. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Open forum, if anybody would like to speak. All right. Then we have the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes, bills, purchase orders, investments, receptionist, billing tax, step increase, utility, billing clerk, step increase, and EMT hire. Then there's actually a couple donation resolutions. Donation resolution 2025-11. It's a $1,000 donation from the American Legion Post 101 to TriCap Bus. Resolution number 2025-12. $995 from the American Legion Post 101 for the new signage out at Meadowlark Park. Resolution number 2025-13. $500 donation from the American Legion Auxiliary Post 101 towards the TriCap bus. Resolution number 2025-14, a donation of $980 from the Melrose Fire Relief towards the purchase of a grain auger. Resolution number 2025, a donation in the amount of $15,000 from Land O'Lakes towards the Melrose Fire Department ladder truck. And again, there was a couple festival license. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Round of reports. Stearns County Attorney. Hello, welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Kind of making the annual trip. There's 13 nights out this year in between band rehearsals, so taking a new country band out on Saturday for the first time. It's really fun. First, we will talk about, as we usually do, diversion. Things right up front for the city of Melrose. We have seen our diversion numbers go down a lot. We're finding some of our larger agencies don't even write citations for the juveniles on some of the lower level offenses anymore because it takes us so long to get in front of a district court judge. And if you've ever been a kid or have a kid, you wait 6 months to tell them don't do that anymore. It just doesn't do a whole lot of good. So our diversion program has always been candidly a little more effective than court at getting that behavior to stop, but we're just not getting as many tickets as we used to. And you'll see, you did have a couple here go through. I think they were shoplifting cases. The smaller cities are still using the program, and if you do have any community service projects that you need, please let us know, because the kids from Albany might rather come up here and vice versa, that type of thing. So we are always looking for projects. The adult diversion is down because it's for truly first-time offenders, and we don't see as many first-time offenders as we used to. So that's good. That's good. People that tend to come through the system have already been there, so they're not in the diversion program. So the person that we've always had working on this, we're going to ask her to step in on truancy, because the kind of conversations that we have with kids and families, our truancy numbers skyrocketed in 2018, and they, not like COVID helped that, and now they're right back up to where they were in 2018. So statewide and national issue, actually, with kids. Sometimes they'll go to school, they just don't go to class. So we're going to take the person who has been working on these juvenile numbers, since her numbers are kind of down, we're going to have her help with those going forward. So going to the next page then, the blue and red one, those are your city prosecution numbers that we do under your contract. As you can see, very consistent there with the past. We do have regular communication with the chief and his people. In fact, I noticed when I was going through the files this year, there were a number of calls that went back and forth. So they know our number and we know theirs, and that continues to go real well. And as you go on to the next page then with your felonies, your felony numbers were actually down a little bit this last year, but a lot of those people went to prison for a long time. So you will not be hearing from those people again anytime soon. There were a lot of person crimes in there, some sexual abuse cases, some domestics, just one drug crime. The rest of those were person crimes. But our trial numbers are really shifting. We used to have a lot more that would actually go to trial. Now we have a lot more that plead guilty on the morning of trial. Literally, we had more people with the witnesses and the jury sitting there plead guilty than we actually had trials last year. But the amount of resources that goes into that is exactly the same. When we're sitting there with the witnesses and the jury, that's your tax dollars at work. But again, we're not afraid to try a case, and it's good news that people are taking responsibility more than they have in the past. Any questions?
As far as not going to trial, are they like pleading a lower penalty or just,
Not on the morning of trial.
no?
No, no. I think in a lot of these cases where you see, especially with the child abuse cases and the domestics, they don't think the victim will really show up.
Yeah.
And when they find out that they're there and ready to testify, they don't, thankfully, some of them choose not to put them through it.
Right.
But they understand that that's what we have to do. And like I say, it doesn't save us any time or effort. I mean, the judges understand that if we've already gotten to that point, the cases are also bigger. We've speculated that the size of the cases, literally like gigabyte-sized cases, have doubled in the last 2 years. Everybody's got body camera. There's security camera. There's ring cameras. We solved a homicide in St. Cloud going door to door asking people if we could see their ring camera because we were trying to figure out what vehicle was leaving the scene. So these cases are, the size of them and the complication goes up. And I think that might be part of it too when they sit down with the defense attorney that morning and say, well,
What's your defense? Yeah.
but again, they have a right to do that, and we're ready to do that. Like I said, we've prepared more than we ever have, but we've actually tried less than we have in years.
Good.
Good
Thanks.
question.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing us this.
Okay. Thanks for having me, and always feel free. You don't have to wait till I come every year. You can always call me in the middle. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Chief Mouse.
Good evening. February 2025, in our traffic area, we had 9 citations, 55 verbal warnings, 4 written warnings. 2025, we had 201 calls or requests for service. Last year was 285. In 2024, we ended on ICR 613. This year was 496. We're down for about 107 calls already for the year. 9 agency assists. Those numbers seem to be trending lower, and I was asking one of the officers today how or why that's been happening. And some of the realization we had is that with our new CAD system we have, that we get assigned to the original call now. So like the other day there was a crash going to town. We secured the helipad for any potential patients going out. We were assigned to the crash with injuries and did not have a separate agency assist ICR. So that might be part of it. There is a way in our system to make some of those adjustments. It's just a matter of learning the system a little bit better. So we might be able to change that, and those numbers might change a bit, but it doesn't seem as though that we're coming or going from town any more or less, I guess, in the last several months compared to maybe last year at this time when we were in the upper 20s. So, only other area of reference, I guess, is pretty soon we'll be doing our nuisance ordinance violations inspections. Did an article for Carol, which will be coming in one of the upcoming post editions. So I'll kind of give a highlight of what we're looking for each year. This is not a new thing. I think the ordinances went into effect in the early 2000s, and probably every year since it went into effect, either JJ or myself has, pretty much JJ told me I was the one doing it up until I took over. So the consistency is there. Nothing's changed on what we're looking for, what our expectations are. There are some areas that have become more of a concern. Parking in people's front yards, not as big an issue in the winter. We want people off the road so that everybody can plow, all those sorts of things. Frozen ground is much different than the softness we have now. We have seen some yards that are not looking very pretty with the thaw. So we'll be making some conversation with those folks, and some of them have already addressed it themselves when they see the soupy, nasty ruts that are left behind from the attempts they made in these few weeks when things were thawing. So other area of highlight, I believe I did at the last meeting, the new squad car. They told me the end of the month, and that's when I said that in February. So they told me the end of the month, and here we are in March, and they said the end of the month. So delivery date is supposed to be next week. We'll believe it when we see it, like I said last time, and then we'll get it all dressed up and ready for the road. I keep saying the parade, but we'll see. There was a conversation from the individuals that put our lights and equipment in about bringing it to the State Chiefs Conference in Rochester the second week of April. That might be a push if it does even show up on time, so we'll see what we can do if it's an option. If not, the senior parade, maybe hit that one, the regular Riverfest parade. That's the ultimate hope. So That's the goal. Any questions?
Thank you, Chief. City Attorney report, Scott.
Yeah, just a few things. I won't spend a lot of time on the murals at this point. That's coming up later in action items. Other than that, just kind of fielding some questions and trying to see how our ordinances apply. There was some interest in, the city has a billboard on the west side of town as you're eastbound on 94, and there was a company that was interested in that site, and I realized that, that would not be a good, that really was not an available site for a commercial billboard. And then, it's bound to happen sooner or later. We got, there are people looking at short-term rentals and discussing, how do the ordinances we have now apply to that kind of situation. We haven't had to deal with it yet, so just trying to think ahead and say, okay, when it happens, how do we apply what we've got? And then the question will become, is what we have adequate, or should there be some additions or changes? Some communities specifically regulate the short-term rentals. We don't have anything specific for short-term rentals, other than just our ordinance. Ordinances that we would require of any landlord, and then, what the restrictions are in our zoning, for that kind of activity.
A short-term rental is like a VRBO, or what's the definition of a short-term
Yeah,
rental?
like the Airbnb, somebody decides that they're going to, make their house, put it up on the internet and say you can rent this for, you can rent rooms here for so much, and there seems to be a variety of what people offer. So stay tuned.
Well, yeah, and I did ask, that I was supposed to put on agenda, I didn't make it about, like with rental properties where you have, people renting out these houses, and then we're having trouble with, looks, for example, on Main Street by my place, just, dumpsters sitting outside now, and you have chairs and that sitting literally on the sidewalks. I think it's time we have to look into it, especially now that we do have, rental housing available for, with all the new apartments. I think it's something we have to look into, because some of these rental houses aren't being good neighbors, not helping out the community, and I think we're starting to find issues. So I hope this gets put on the agenda next month so we can, talk about it, and hopefully we can get some information to you for it, because I'd like to know what's the best way to go, because if we're gonna rent out every house in town, it's not gonna be no houses for sale, and then sometimes I wonder what we can
And I'm
do.
assuming the rentals you're seeing, that's, somebody's bought a house and they're renting it to somebody for
Yeah,
a year or
like an
two.
LLC or whatever, they're
Yeah.
out to make money on these
And then
places.
the tenants are not being good
Yeah,
neighbors, and we do regulate those. Those are meant to be licensed, and if there's issues, we should be able to get on the landlord, about that, so.
okay.
This would be, maybe Melrose becomes a vacation hub. That's usually the communities that see the Airbnbs, they're popular vacation destinations, and people would rather stay there than a hotel.
Yeah, but I just don't want it to become like, Potterville, where everybody has to rent a house, they can't buy a house in town either, so,
But these are, weekends and
yeah.
that sort of, so, a different animal.
Yep,
Okay.
thanks, Scott. Community Development Director, Sheila?
So we have action items tonight following the February 24th Planning and Zoning meeting. But as Scott mentioned, we have set a public hearing for Monday, March 31st before the Planning and Zoning Commission to establish an ordinance regarding murals in the city. So any proposals or recommendations they make at that meeting will come to you at the April City Council meeting. The Melrose Area Development Authority is working on outreach ideas, and they're excited about promoting existing businesses and hearing from existing businesses about what they're planning and what they might need. Today, or when I created this report last Thursday, they had started work on the roof of Scooters, and so now that is pretty much wrapped up. That building now is weather tight. Interior work will probably take some time. There's a lot of discussions about what's the best use of the property, you know, what it should be made into is specifically on the bottom floor, besides the 2 apartments being restored on the top. So we're just happy to see that the building was saved, the roof has been secured, and now it's weather tight, so when it rains, it won't be raining in. At your April meeting, you're going to be reviewing applications for the park board. The deadline to apply is next Monday, the 24th, so there is still time for interested parties to apply to the park board. Letters and vacant building applications were sent to properties around town which are vacant, asking them about their plans for the future. This is in line with the ordinance that you recently passed. It also fits with our 2025 goal of working with existing homes on rehab. That kind of goes to what you alluded to, Joe. Working on rehab and cleaning up properties, having those discussions and having those conversations, and that's really our goal for 2025. And we are working with the school's summer community education program. They need to use the Sauk River Park on an increasing basis this summer because of their parking lot project. They're going to have some trouble with access to some of their fields because of the parking lot project, and they've asked if they can come to the park, and we said absolutely. So we are excited about them coming down there. And behind the scenes, we're working on permits and projects. We're starting to see construction crews doing remodels and preparing locations for new businesses. We've been seeing that a lot along the interstate the last couple of years, but now we're starting to see those trucks on Main Street, and so that's been kind of nice to see. And today we moved that house into town, so there were people that were waiting in parking lots to watch the house go by. So it's interesting. They tell me that over by the park by Centricare, a couple of daycares or schools came and sat in the park so the little kids could watch the house go by. That's all I have.
Is the Genio plant considered vacant?
It is.
It is?
Mm-hmm. And they are also subject to the vacant building process.
Okay, thanks.
All right. City Administrator report, Colleen.
We've had some questions from the public regarding the U.S.-Canadian tariffs on electricity in particular and what impact that will have on Melrose. MRES does not directly purchase electricity from Canada, and the RTOs, which is the regional transmission operators, which we are part of, is a very small percentage of our energy mix, less than 5%. MRES does not expect impacts on the current wholesale market and little to any impact on the consumers. So we will, of course, continue to monitor this situation and keep you informed. There was a handout in your packet regarding this. The other thing that I want to talk about that's moving through the legislature right now, there's actually several things moving through, that this one kind of goes to the top of the list because it's something that they're going to be dealing with next week. And that is, they have brought back this year, they had a similar package last year. It's called the Yes to Homes legislation. It was included in your packet, but essentially what this does, it's kind of trying to put a one-size-fits-all to address the housing crisis. What their intent on this doesn't work. It simply does not work for Greater Minnesota. They basically are trying to force cities to rezone their entire community to increase density regardless of what the city needs or whether the city has made similar changes already. They are trying to impose unreasonable minimum lot sizes and minimal setbacks. They're prohibiting cities from dealing with local parking challenges. The chief just alluded to that. This legislation would say people can have as many cars as they want and they can park wherever they want to park them. So kind of getting back to what you were saying, Joe, with the rental stuff. Prohibit cities from imposing design and other standards while still allowing homeowners associations to do so. There's three different bills that actually have been introduced. One is called the Minnesota Starter Home. The second is called the Missing Middle Act, and then the other is Housing and Commercial Districts. So I did send a letter on behalf of the city to both of our senator and our representative, and this league has come out with another letter, which I will be sending tomorrow as well. So this is not something that really helps us. If they want to help us, what they need to do is fund sort of the infrastructure side of things, and that would be very helpful to everyone. So, again, just making you aware of that. There's some other things happening in the legislature too that could impact us, but they haven't gotten out of committee yet. So that's where I'm at as far as legislative matters, and then I have some other things on the agenda as we move forward tonight.
All right. Well, we're on to action items, 2024-2025 LMC IT workers' compensation insurance quote. Who would like to talk?
You want to do it, Jackie? Otherwise I can. It's basically, it's for the League of Minnesota Cities. Every year we have to do a quote for our workers' comp insurance. And this year, we were actually shocked. We had to call them to see if they made a mistake. But our workers' comp has gone down significantly. So that's really great news for us. It's actually gone down a lot. And part of that is the fact that that we've had some longer claims that have dropped off. So basically, with the workers' comp, what you guys have done in the past is it's something that's split between the city and utilities. And it would be for the insurance period March 7th, 2025 to March 7th, 2026. The net premium costs for the upcoming period are $55,962. The quote in 2024 was $113,139. So it's a decrease of 51%. That's due to claims history, the experience modification change, etc. So the general fund typically pays $42,531 of that, and the utility share is $13,431. So I am recommending consideration concurring with the Melrose Public Utilities Commission approving the League of Minnesota Cities workers' comp insurance at the regular premium option.
All right, can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Water wastewater maintenance worker, seasonal part-time.
So this is just, there's a job description that was included in your packet. It really is just needed clarification, general cleanup. So what we added to this, just so you're aware, there were some typos, just some cleanup that way. We made sure the correct salary schedule was in there. And then we have language that says, would prefer they're going to school or in the process of getting a wastewater license, but it's not required. So we just added that as a preference. So there was a red line version and a final version, so I'm asking for approval of that job description.
Okay, is there any questions or concerns?
Nope.
All right. Okay, we got a first. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6C is streets, parks, worker, seasonal, temporary.
And this is very similar to what we just talked about. There was some additional items added to the job description that just really relate to, are you going to be able to work independently? Type of experience you need for small equipment, that type of thing. And so myself and Andrew and Doris had just reviewed the job description. So again, there was a red line version and a final version. So we are asking that you please adopt that.
All right, can I get a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Streets, park worker. Did we?
Again, this is another one that just needed clarification and general cleanup. Another one that we worked on, so there was a red line and there was a final. The one about this one, I want to make sure. I just wanted to make sure I had the, yeah. So on this one,
This one, we just took off a few things, like having a boiler.
yeah, we're responsible for all snow plowing operations in the city was added as a red line. And then the other part of this that was added was knowledge of OSHA rules and regulations as they apply to department operations, and knowledge of regulations, placements, and work zone areas as per the Minnesota Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. The thing that we added is a special engineer boiler's license or ability to obtain within 6 months of hiring date. That was added so that it was consistent with the job descriptions in other departments that would have some of this. Also, then it would be consistent with the supervisor position as well. And then it was, yeah, that's it. Some other minor things.
Streets and parks
Streets,
worker.
streets and parks, yep.
Is the boiler license for
There's two things it's for. So,
overlapping with another department? Or
so
center?
downstairs, so city center, there's boilers down there,
So-
and then they use a machine that they need out in the field that requires a special boiler's license.
Oh, okay. And they do that today? It's just saying,
They
It's
have
just
people that
making
have
it
the boiler's
official.
license, so currently we have, I believe, Andrew, do we have two folks in the streets department that have the boiler's license, so. It's just, making it consistent so that when we hire in the future that we have everyone have it. What is the piece of equipment that they need the boiler's license for? What's it called?
Steamer.
Steamer, yeah.
oh,
That's when you
Oh, yeah.
jet, like sewers that are
Frozen.
freezing or something?
It's for thaw out the.
Frozen.
So it's the pressure that you have, so.
but I know in the past when we've gone through these job description updates, all of a sudden the wages, then somebody brings up the wage scale, needs to change and
Right.
stuff like that, so.
No, this
This is
was,
all just cleaning it up, making it
Yep,
official that
yep, and
everybody knows that
the
this has
conversation
been part
was
of-
had about it. Andrew and I and Doris all talked about this, and so that's why it's in here. Doesn't make an impact, it doesn't change their experience rating or anything else when you look at their,
Okay.
what they have in their job equity or their classification stuff, so. And the department's aware of it as well, because I had a conversation with them about it.
All right.
So.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Ordinance number 3-20-2025-1. An ordinance summarizing and reaffirming fees for city license permits and services, establishing a schedule of fines, and providing for review, modifications, and amendment.
So when we adopted our fee schedule, one of the things that we need to modify is the ALS fee and the BLS fee.
Yeah, so
They were written and they were talked about in the work thing, they just did not get transferred to the fee schedule.
Okay.
And all-day events.
Yep. Is there any questions or concerns about it?
What's an ALS and BLS fee?
Basic life support in ALS is advanced life support for the ambulance
Oh,
service.
gotcha.
Yep.
So, okay, motion to approve?
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. All right, then it's ordinance number 3-20-2025-2, an ordinance amending section 1800 of the solar energy systems of the Melrose zoning ordinance.
Yeah, the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, held a public hearing on February 24th for the purpose of giving consideration to amending the solar energy systems part of the zoning ordinance. Basically, what we're doing here is if someone wants to put a solar field on their property, it has to be an accessory use to their existing business. They can't be putting it on there for someone else, and someone cannot buy an empty lot, for example, in the industrial park for the sole purpose of putting on a solar field. It has to be an accessory use to an existing business, and that's the only change we made. During the public hearing, we had a concerned individual come about what if we annex a township next door and they have a solar field? Does that mean they have to leave? No, that would be something that would be automatically come into town then, until such time as it's no longer a use, then it couldn't be replaced. And so the action item tonight is to provide consideration to amending or adopting ordinance 03-20-2025-2 to amend the solar energy systems part of the zoning ordinance.
Any concerns?
Nope.
Okay.
Is for solar fields though? Because it said language in here about the roofs and like 5% and
Yeah,
then it
that,
also said that you couldn't have posts, and they can't be on the ground, so it's for fields, or is it actually like rooftops, or?
Well, rooftops have always been, we have rooftop units in the city already. It's a conditional use process. Middle Arc Apartments has them,
Yeah.
and there's a couple of individual homes. It's just a conditional use process. This is just addressing that any solar fields, whether it's on your roof or in a field, has to be an accessory unit to your home or your business.
So you're sort of saying like XL can't go put it on Mark's house.
Right.
I mean, Mark has to,
Got the proof.
So in other words, you know, look at Mittendorf's that have agriculture land in the city limits. You know, they couldn't rent that out to a solar company to put solar fields on there.
all right, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Resolution number 2025-16, resolution approving amendment of the conditional use permit for the planned unit development of Railroad Avenue.
Yes, the Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing also on February 24th to address this question. We issued a conditional use permit for Railroad West in 2023. At that time, it called out for the apartment, it called out for the park, and it called out for 25 residential lots, lots 1 through 25. Since that time, Roach Development has come in and purchased the 25 residential lots and now want to put in 17 buildings, 34 townhomes. It's just a difference in terms of what was called out on the planned unit development. So the amendment deals only with those 25 lots. It also essentially does away with the existing utility and drainage easements and creates a blanket easement for the entire property, which is what Roach has agreed to. So the individual easements between each lot are going away, and then they will create their private development. And so the action item tonight is to consideration to amend or adopt Resolution 2025-16, approving that amendment to the conditional use permit.
Okay. Sounds like a great idea. Any questions or concerns? Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Pickleball court.
The Park Board, at its August 21st, 2024 meeting, decided to add pickleball to the Sauk River Park this summer. In your packet were estimates received for the project. There were 2 estimates with each one from a concrete and one for the dirt work. And so we are asking for consideration tonight to authorize the construction of the pickleball court and award the project to Boyning Masonry and Mears Inc., who are the low bidders for the necessary dirt work and concrete.
What is the timetable on this?
As soon as we can in the spring, we're hoping.
Okay. So it should be done by June?
We hope so.
Okay.
And it'll be right near the basketball court
Okay.
on the green space.
All right. No, I just want to make sure it gets a priority because I know summertime people like to use it. Not that it gets in October and they don't get to use it for the first year and if we have any issues, so,
Yeah, we're thinking it'll be popular with the campers.
yeah, for sure. All right, can I get a motion to approve awarding the project to Boyning Mason Area and Mears Inc.?
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Main Street Project, Stearns County agreement.
All right, good evening. We have an agreement for you guys this evening for formalizing our agreement with Stearns County to get reimbursed for the county's portion of the Main Street project. Reimbursement request after tonight's meeting will be almost $500,000, so once this is approved. The process we've been working with the county for a while. It's been through the county board, where we go. That's pretty much in line with what we approved for the bridge project last year, a couple years back. Really, it's kind of the same deal here, so just looking for a formal approval from the council and answer questions if you guys have any.
All right.
Isn't this something we normally have in place before the project starts? Isn't this, it seems a little, usually have a contract with the county if it's a shared project,
Yeah.
before the project even starts.
We absolutely do. We didn't realize it wasn't in place until after we made an attempt to make the first reimbursement request. And then it was just been a process to get it back and forth. But
Okay.
again, it's exactly as we had planned. The
Right.
cost share is exactly what we expected. Aside from actually, we're getting a little better deal on the stores for the next year.
Okay, because I know there were meetings with the county before the project started, obviously, so
Lots of them, and they were
Just
at
somehow
almost
the-
every meeting. Yeah,
the formal agreement fell through the cracks.
that's where it happened, yeah.
Okay. Well, we should have that in place first next time.
All right.
Just be sure.
For my level of comfort, absolutely.
All right. Are you making the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Can you get a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. 2025 street project, advertised for bids.
All right, we're ready to go out for bids for the 2025 street project. One thing I'd like to add is a little bit of curveball for the council, looking at the option of adding a Schedule B for the city hall parking improvements. Andrew's been taking care of most of that work, but I'm just gonna add it to our bid as a Schedule B for the council to take an option, basically take advantage of a bidding climate where we have contractor already doing the work for the city, get a chance to get it on a bid, formally, and hopefully force them to give us a good price.
What are you looking to have done? Just reseal coated or like repairs to the tar?
Reclaim the tar, redo the parking lot, take the bump outs out, just make it straight. And the sidewalk in front will be redone. It's all busted up and starting to deteriorate pretty quickly, so.
New pedestrian ramps, right?
Yep, new ped ramps put in
Is that bump out in front gonna be taken out too? I mean,
Yes.
on both sides?
on both sides, it'll be straight parking.
Okay. That would make sense.
Easier for parking and easier for
Yeah,
plowing.
get a couple more spots too. Okay.
So if you guys are on board, we'll take that to the bidders and have results at your April meeting.
Okay. Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, quick question for you. When are they coming back to finish off Main Street?
We probably won't see them until at least mid-May, that's when the asphalt plant's usually open.
Okay,
So-
like what, okay, so they're doing that and then, they're gonna go over people's lawns, cause a lot of people
Absolutely.
are very,
They're not even permanent seeded, they're temporary seeded.
and it's a lot of sugar sand that's in these people's fronts and it's,
Yeah, and it all settled too, so,
Yeah.
or
So-
it will settle, we know it will, so.
okay, so you'll be bringing in black dirt for the people so I don't get yelled at?
Growing grass, as we know, is probably the most important thing on a project, it really is.
Yeah.
And yes, they're gonna do black dirt to make it happen,
Okay, good, good.
absolutely.
Including, I will be happy personally, I am on Main Street also, but trust me, when I am out shoveling this winter and people were coming to me and, oh gosh. So,
Yeah,
just
that-
wanna make sure.
The
you said-
contractor was made well aware before things froze up, that they've got some help.
Okay, good,
Absolutely.
perfect. Thank you so much, appreciate it. Tri-County, Human Society contract? Was that human or animal? Mine says human.
Humane.
Okay, I was just making sure.
It'd be a cheap way to house people.
Otherwise, if we're gonna be getting rid of some people in town, I don't want no part of that one, so.
At $20 a day, I think that's the cheapest way we can do
Yeah,
it.
B.
It's better than the prison system. We've been exploring on and off for the last several years since we lost the ability to go to Leadstone or the vet clinic with our animals, somewhere to go. We went a private route. They ended up selling the property. The new property owner didn't like to entertain the idea as they worked on the road and those sorts of things. So it's kind of been if you got animals and they're running loose, they'll go home at some point or use the social media route, and 98% of the time they find the owner. So it's been working, but the area of concern now is when we have dangerous animals or any dogs or animals that need to be quarantined. So we need to have somewhere for them to go. In the past, the Humane Society, whether it's in St. Cloud or Alexandria, didn't want to take on a city with any more volume than what they already had. The conversations that Colleen had with Tri-County Humane Society in St. Cloud said they would be able to do at least our dangerous or potentially dangerous animals or any dog that need to be quarantined for this process. It's not feasible for us to bring stray dogs all the way to St. Cloud and have them housed up there and make homeowners go that way as well, so we'll probably still maintain the process of social media and those sorts of things, because it seems to be effective. Dangerous dogs or potentially dangerous dogs or any of those sorts of things, this is what the idea would be, is to bring them there so they're housed properly and those sorts of things. And then the fees can be turned back over to the owner of that animal in the process if they're deemed dangerous or any of those other sort of things. So the idea is just enter into a formal contract with them. Some of that is so that we're kind of locked in, we got a place to go, as well as those fees stay in place as well. So,
And I know you're very good about social media, you know, taking pictures, and these you would be taking pictures of.
yep, it'd be the same process, but these most likely are gonna be, we have a potentially / dangerous dog that is processing that would need to be removed from the owner. This is where we bring them then,
Yeah.
for the quarantine period and the duration until a hearing could be had or any of those sorts of things.
Perfect. All right, can I get a motion to consider approving the Tri-County Humane Society Animal Impound Agreement?
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. There's no old business. New business, assistant ambulance coordinator position.
Yes, ambulance coordinator Gina Eggert is requesting to internally advertise for the assistant ambulance coordinator position. Julie, who has been in that position for a long time, has done a wonderful, wonderful job, is going to be kind of stepping back from those duties, and so we're asking that the council give consideration approving internal advertising for this position.
They definitely need it. Julie has been a big asset, and there will be some shoes to be filled there. So probably sooner than later to get it done, so Julie can at least help this new person out and Gina. So I would say get going on this as soon as possible. So if that's the case, can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, chicken discussion.
So there've been inquiries about allowing chickens in the city limits of Melrose. Currently, they are not permitted. In your packet was Holding Ford's proposed ordinance. There are other communities, Sartell is one that does have a chicken ordinance as well. It seems to be cyclical, and right now there's a lot of communities that are talking about this. I know that there's also the flip side of that, because we are a community that has a substantial turkey grower folks, that there's some large concerns because of bird flu. And so I think this is a request that was made to bring before you guys. It's up for discussion. It's really what it is.
Okay, we are seeing the effect of eggs that are $8, for a dozen. A lot of these things that are going on with this bird flu, it is a serious issue. Some people don't believe it, but it is. I've done a lot of work with turkey barns if you bring a vehicle on the property, you literally have to sanitize your vehicle. You cannot go to another barn for 2 to 3 days, just because all this stuff can affect these herds. You get the wrong animal in a barn, it will kill these turkeys or chickens. And that's where I have been for a while. Yeah, it would be nice, but we have to think about Melrose Feed Mill. We have to think about Kloppak Feed Mill. We have to think about Munson Feed, especially these businesses that are in our town. It was tough enough for Melrose Feed Mill when the avian flu came through the first time a few years ago, when it was going around. We had to redirect all the Jenny O trucks all the way around town, so they did not go past Melrose Feed Mill, because you get some of these feathers in the wheels of the feed trucks, and they go out to a farm. It will kill the flock, and I have seen it firsthand. So we have to think all around about this. This is the lifeline of our community, and that's where I'm at. And I do, like I said, we got to be careful. We got to support these businesses. We are a poultry community. And that is my opinion, and these are some of the things that I have dealt with over the years. So whatever you guys have to say.
Yeah, I brought it, I just mentioned it because, obviously, egg prices are extremely high, and I've had a few people ask me why they can't have 4, 5, 6 chickens in a coop, it's not free range, they gotta be caged in a certain area. And I know lots of people that have a few chickens outside of town. They don't seem to cause too much problem with bird flu on any other turkey barns or whatnot. I think 99.9% of whatever bird flu gets to chicken barns and turkey barns is probably from the wild birds that are flying around uncontrolled. I don't know that there's, obviously, people wouldn't be allowed to have roosters. Chickens eat a lot of bugs. Their fertilizer is great for your garden. I don't know that there's any danger in having a handful of chickens in somebody's yard. And it wouldn't be like everybody's got chickens in Melrose. It'd be probably limited to a certain number of permits that would be allowed initially, just to see how, do a test pilot type thing. If you had enough interest type of thing. If you had 3 or 4 people, the handful of people that have mentioned it to me, if that's the only ones that want to have chickens, it's probably not going to cause an issue. I don't, it is. It's nice to be able to grow some of your own food in the backyard. We could easily check into what the dangers are in having 6 chickens in your yard in a coop. What are the odds of that causing a bird flu outbreak? Probably minimum. But I'm open to the idea.
I'm kind of in the wheelhouse with Joe. Just, if I was like Munson Feed, I wouldn't want 6 chickens next to me. Sparrow goes and eats on one pile, flies over to their, feed mill. They could potentially spread bird flu that way too.
Could. Although I don't think it's just chickens that spread it.
No, it's
That
not,
makes sense,
but I
so-
mean, they're obviously a lot closer. I mean,
Right.
you don't think a goose is gonna probably wander into,
Yeah. But are we concerned about if people had chickens in the backyard, that those chickens would be the ones spreading the bird flu, or the
well, they're
wildlife?
potential carriers, right? So they could get it and be
Every-
carrying it.
Every waterfowl is, or every bird is supposedly, from what we're told. And we had 6 birds to the millions and millions of birds in our environment. It's not, in my opinion, gonna have
My
any impact.
concern would be the proximity to these locations though, but that's my.
Why don't you ask Pete Rothwork, Pete Terrace, or even Pete Klappbach, ask them if they go into, on a day, do they walk through all the barns of all their places? They will say absolutely not. You cannot go from one barn to the next. I mean, if you're part of that farm,
That's because if there is a case of bird flu, it could potentially transfer to the
no,
other
it's not
barn.
just bird flu. There's plenty of other things that you can get.
Sure.
Sicknesses, because we know that there's so much, these birds are so susceptible to dying for the stupidest things, plain and simple fact, that anything, like I said, what do we say to the person that lives right next to Munson Feed? You can't have chickens. I mean, you're 20 feet away from there. What do we say about, like the businesses across Third here, right by Melrose Feed Mill?
Right,
Who
but it's
gets
not the chickens that
permits?
are going into Munson Feed, it's the
But it doesn't matter
sparrows, the
because
sparrows and the pigeons and stuff like that. They can carry
Feathers
it too.
fly off of a chicken and it goes and someone picks it up on their foot. I mean, it is that serious. I mean, if you go in a barn, you literally have to wash your feet. And like I said, I've had that where I have to literally plan
Right.
weeks when I used to be, delivering salt. I had to plan weeks out that I can go to this barn on this week, the first week, and this one on the second week, but I better make sure my truck has been washed because it does happen. I mean, it is a serious concern. I mean, and if you ask someone like Pete Rothfork, who's had multiple times, multiple farms where the stuff is happening, I just personally don't want to take a chance when we're supposed to be here. I mean, if Jenny left town, we could tear down a water tower and half of our electrical grid because we wouldn't need it anymore.
All right.
And that's
I'm
where we
failing to
have
see the connection personally, but that's why, we don't have to tonight by any means.
Yeah.
It's just, it was brought up and
Yeah,
discuss it, and we could, I'll gladly call Pete,
I call
talk to him
all,
about it, yeah.
Travis?
I'd say, yeah, I mean, we need more info
Yeah.
than tonight anyway, you'd have to make a
Right.
pros and cons list. I feel like there's a lot of other random things that would go with it, besides just the bird flu from dogs barking at them, or who knows what, I mean, you just got all kinds of
Potential,
pros and cons, I mean, there's
Right.
a lot of, and I don't know if I'd say you'd wanna limit, if you're gonna allow it, then it's probably gotta be allowed for anybody in the city to get it.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
it'd be on a permit basis, but, yeah.
But I mean, like you mentioned, just a
Right.
couple people, then it's,
And it's hard to say that. I mean, So, sort of like, do we have permits for, so only so many people in town can have a dog or a cat?
I don't know,
mean, it's the same thing.
years ago, we had ducks, and we had rabbits, and we had cats, and we had all kinds of stuff in our yard,
Yeah,
all the time, and nobody had any concerns with it whatsoever.
yeah.
We've come a long way to ratcheting down on things, so.
But I
Just-
also
just
know
saying.
too, we knew this years ago. We had to be careful. I mean, I guess, I know when I move into town, I know what, people should educate themselves when you come into town, you know what, rules are. So it's like some people don't care about the yard, where some people in town, some towns are pretty pristine, and if someone comes in, it's sort of the same principle, coming into town that, we did have this ordinance, and it was to protect the businesses that employ, 700 and some people at our plant in town. So, but if you guys want to get more research done to it, but I would definitely say that we need to have people here from the turkey companies. I would think it's important. So, all right.
All right.
Any other questions?
Who could be like a expert on the spread of that? Is there anybody from the county that could maybe chime in and say like the likelihood of that actually spreading from one to the other?
So I think we would go through, there's the Stearns County Public Health, yep. We could get in touch with them and find out.
They could give us a scale like 1 to 10.
Yep. We can get in touch with the county.
That's fair.
Sounds good.
Yep. Informational items, utility commission meeting minutes, schools and conferences. Is there any questions on that? Otherwise, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Meeting adjourned.